So you really technically can't tell in the end that the lagging strand was made in fragments because of the DNA polymerase 1 helping out, the ligase helping out. What you will get is one long strand of newly synthesized DNA, one long strand of newly synthesized strand up here. We still do have to get rid of this primer. It was originally laid down, so DNA polymerase 1 will act up here as well one time. It gets rid of that primer and adds it there. Whereas on the lagging strand, it was just a repeating of the DNA polymerase 1 getting rid of all the primers that the RNA primase laid down, and then the ligase acting as the glue that puts all of the Okazaki fragments together. So if I continue this, in the end, if I let the helicase go to the end, what you would get is, and I'll change it, imagine the next slide. So what you would get is a complete black, which was the original DNA, matched up with a completely blue strand, which represents the new. This is old, this is new. Then you would have the new strand, then you would have, there's the old strand. Technically, if we looked at this, to you it may look they're not identical, but if we looked and said, the old strand had a G right here. The old strand down here would have to have a C. What does the new strand have? If that's a G, the new strand must have a C. The new strand here must have a G. Look at just the first base pairings, GC, GC. That will continue on. These two strands are identical in nucleotide sequence. They're slightly different in that they have one old and one new strand. This leads us to your actual last piece of the notes. Going all the way back. The last piece which follows these notes. You have the terms semi-conservative versus conservative. These terms are, I'm talking to I just had a teacher walk in. She probably thinks I'm weird that I'm teaching to an empty classroom. Do you think I'm weird?
No more than usual.
Okay. All right. Semi-conservative is going to say that it helps if you actually change the colors, whether a pencil and pen. My original ones were both the black strands of DNA. Semi-conservative is actually the correct way DNA replicates. What will happen is it shows that the second generation of DNA, there's one original and one new strand. This is the more appropriate way DNA replicates, but for some reason, Pennsylvania thinks you need to know what they first thought happened. What they first thought in the conservative method, let me change that to black, if this was my original, scientists originally thought that the original old pairs actually got back together, and that the new strands were completely new. This is not true the way that we actually now know DNA replicates. This is the term that you need to associate. Semi-conservative replication. They may ask you questions, what does it mean to replicate semi-conservatively? That says it matches an old with a new, old with a new. But in the terms of genetics, these nucleotide sequences are identical. So these strands, the left strand is identical to the right. So that's going to end the lesson, but there is one animation I want you to check out. Go to Google right now. Go, Google, now. And when you go there, you can type in this DNA replication animation. And what it will automatically probably add to it is McGraw. That's the one you want. When you Google this exact thing, DNA replication animation McGraw, it's the second link down. I want you to click on that. So I'm going to go over here. So I'm going to go back. there is DNA replication animation McGraw. The second one, it says DNA replication fork.
DNA replication begins when helix.
That's really loud. But what I want you to do is look at this. I'm not going to show it to you here because it probably will not come across the camera as well. But take a look at it and you'll see this whole thing in motion. If you come to class tomorrow and you don't understand the animation, that's what I'll be here to help you walk through. But it should talk about all the enzymes and the whole idea of DNA polymerase, ligase, RNA primase, everything. So with that, we're concluding DNA replication. Any questions, save them for tomorrow. Hopefully this worked, and we're good to go. I will see you tomorrow, and make sure you have fun. I gotta come up with a tagline. If you can think of one for me, being original, I know yesterday I said stay classy, North Penn. I did steal that, so feel free to think of one, and I might give you a shout out in the next video. See you tomorrow.